Hello, we're going to talk about a class of crypto investments that might be the best crypto based investments out there. And they're not actually the coins, they are the stocks basically attached to crypto companies. Now, before we say anything, you're thinking mining stocks. No, I would not buy any mining stocks because of the risk entailed. Definitely wouldn't buy any cloud mining services because I think most of those are just pure garbage. Now, let's get that out of the way. What do I mean? I mean exchanges and other crypto services. Now, there's obviously MicroStrategy. That just basically tracks the price of Bitcoin. I would rather just buy Bitcoin than MicroStrategy. From what I see right now, MicroStrategy literally has no way to make money besides price go up. Like, Saylor's kind of trapped himself into a coin that doesn't have native staking. And I think based on what the company's trying to do and the agreements and stuff, he can't actually loan it out to generate yield. And that's going to be a serious problem in the time to come because, investors want a return. And especially in years where Bitcoin is dipping, he's going to find it really, really hard to justify. So I probably wouldn't buy MicroStrategy. I think Bitcoin itself is just a better investment than MicroStrategy. Now, I don't think MicroStrategy is going to go bankrupt because unlike a Ponzi scheme, when you stop feeding money into the Ponzi scheme, current investors' money, the whole thing collapses. MicroStrategy is not the same. It's not going to collapse just because Saylor's not buying more Bitcoin. He doesn't actually have to pay anyone. Yes, there are some bonds out there, but it's relatively few compared to the money he's raised. So I don't think that's a problem for him. And you're thinking, but he doesn't have to pay out dividends. He actually doesn't. MicroStrategy does not issue dividends on common stock, so he doesn't have those payouts. So it's not going to fall apart. But basically, a company that's just predicated on number go up, probably not the best one because I don't think unless he changes the terms, he can actually loan that money out. And I'm not really sure if the investors are going to stick with him if he starts loaning that Bitcoin. So I wouldn't buy MicroStrategy. So which companies am I actually talking about right now? Well, Coinbase right now would actually be a pretty good stock. Kraken is going to IPO, and you need to pay attention to these companies that are going to be IPOing. You might want to try to get an allocation on the first day because remember what happened to Circle when it debuted? It went massively, massively up. And I think some of these coins can do the same. And Circle didn't even debut during a euphoria period because we really haven't had a huge euphoria period for cryptos yet. Circle basically debuted. They were targeting, I think, a valuation of 20 million, and it went way, way above that. And it continues to actually go above that. So a couple of coins that you need to look at that might actually be IPOing are Kraken. And Kraken recently got valued on their last round investment at 20 billion, and that still might be under what they're actually worth. Right now, if you look at Coinbase stock, they are valued at almost $100 billion, I believe. If you look at the market cap, 96.98 billion. Kraken is obviously smaller than Coinbase, but I think almost 1/5 the size of Coinbase might be an undervaluation. I would definitely look at maybe a 40 billion valuation for Kraken. So if it's about to IPO, then you might actually want to see that it might go up over its $20 billion valuation, depending on the price per share. Now, if the price per share goes up between their last funding and IPO, then that's a different story. You'll need to adjust the price, but I would expect Kraken to be 40 to 50% of Coinbase's market cap. So if it only debuts at 15, 20 billion, I might want to scoop some price up because I think that'll be really, really nice. Now, Tether is another big one that could actually be IPOing soon. They've actually mentioned it, but they want to raise at a $500 billion market cap. And I think that's actually overpriced. So I would not buy Tether if they try to value themselves at 500 billion. Circle right now is way less than 500 billion. So I don't actually think Tether should actually be 500 billion. Now, Tether's definitely worth more than Circle, but not. The market cap shouldn't be that much higher. 500 billion would make it one of the biggest companies in the world. If you look at Circle Internet Group, which is USDC, its valuation right now, current stock price, is only $37 billion. I think at its high, it was still less than 100 billion. So you can make Tether the case that Tether's might be worth about $100 billion right now. So unless Tether's valuation drops under $100 billion. Now, to be fair, Tether does have more ways to make money, so you might be able to boost up the price to about 150, 200 billion, but it shouldn't be like, 50 to like 20, 30 times the valuation of Circle, maybe like 3 or 4 times the valuation of Circle, because they don't really abide by maybe US rules all that much, although if they're in the US stock market, they might actually have to, but they have way more flexibility in the ways they actually make money. But still, $500 billion is a really, really high valuation, and I probably wouldn't buy it if it wasn't under 150 billion or even under $100 billion for Tether. Some other ones you actually want to look at, Kalshi and Polymarket, if they actually IPO. Kalshi had a valuation of $2 billion following its Series C funding of around $185 billion. Now, this is basically like a betting market, but it does actually have to do a little bit with crypto. And I think $2 billion is probably an undervaluation of Kalshi, so that might actually be something to look at if they actually IPO. If you look at Polymarket, obviously it just got a $2 billion investment from Intercontinental Exchange, or ICE, not the ICE that deports people, but the other ICE, the owner of the New York Stock Exchange, which values the prediction market platform at $9 billion post-money valuation. So right now they're valuing it at $9 billion. I'm not really sure how I feel about that $9 billion. Could be right around the mark, but if crypto is like really, really hot right now and this debuts IPO, I would actually kind of get into it. So there are and of course, like some of the other DEXs and some of the other exchanges might actually want to IPO as well, and I would definitely keep an eye out on that. Now, why I would actually prefer these stocks over crypto companies, like obviously if Ripple IPOs, I'd much rather have Ripple stock than XRP. And I think they're one of the ones you're looking at as well. Because if you buy the stock, you are actually tied to the company's financial health. If you buy the coin, you are not tied to the company's financial health. And there is a very, very big distinction. I've done several videos on this, but people don't really seem to get the message about this. They somehow think that if you buy the company's coin, you are tied to the financial health. That is not true at all. Aside maybe from BNB, which is kind of tied to the exchange because you can use BNB tokens to reduce the price on the exchange, and BNB tokens also get you into that launchpad. Plus, Binance does use the profits they have every quarter to buy back BNB tokens and burn them, kind of like a stock buyback, but that's a rare exception to the rule. Like Ripple is not tied to XRP. IOHK is not tied to Cardano. Let's take Cardano for instance. As long as IOHK gets projects, and Cardano is a big project they're working on for sure, but as long as they can get other projects, IOHK will not go broke even if Cardano dies. Likewise, Ripple has poured a lot into RLUSD. Now, XRP is part of their treasury, but as that treasury drains, they will be less and less attached to XRP and the XRP ledger. It would be perfectly fine for them if all of RLUSD ran on Solana or Ethereum, as long as they're the issuer of RLUSD. They're not really tied to XRPL. And even if XRP never goes anywhere, they can continue to use that to sell to people as a slush fund. But when that nears its completion, they could actually go on to another project, use RLUSD, just go with their messaging system like they have been, and they're not dependent on XRP at all. So that's for Cardano and XRP. It's the same thing with the VeChain Foundation. Now, because the name is actually the VeChain Foundation, it might be a little bit more tied. But remember, they don't have to increase the price of the coin to generate money for their company. For instance, like some of the partnerships with Avery, not Avery Dennison for VeChain, but like with DNGVL, with BMW and stuff, those companies, if they use VeChain's technology, will actually pay the VeChain Foundation. So the foundation makes money, but the coin does not go up because they don't necessarily have to use the coin. And once again, if you're depending on massive number of transactions to generate enough burn to where the coin is rare, that's never going to work because it's not built that way. They built it in a way where it could just go on for years and years at that burn rate and never really have any issue. And two, the thing is, the companies themselves don't really want that to happen, and they could just lower the burn rate or something if that actually does happen, because they want these big institutions to keep using their coin. And if the gas fees get too big, then obviously no one's going to use their coin. So it's actually kind of counterproductive how they design this stuff. Plus, many of these big companies do not have to hold your token to actually use the technology. And the crypto companies are just leveraging the token as funding for their other projects, which I believe is what's happening with at Ripple and several other companies. So the thing is, like, you want to hold something that ties you to the financial fate of the company rather than hold a coin that has very little to do with the financial fate of the company or is not dependent on how the company is not dependent on how it does, because the company can simply just let it go, work on something else, and then you're just kind of screwed. So that's why I think, like, if a crypto company IPOs, and it's been a crypto company for a long time, I think you should buy that stock instead of the coin if you want something a little bit more solid. The stock is going to be less speculative than the crypto coin. Now, I do think the crypto coin does have more potential to go up, but it has far, far more potential to actually drop to zero. And I think that is a much bigger risk, and the reward just really isn't worth it. So I think, like, you should look at crypto companies actually IPOing. Some of them might be dependent on the industry, but overall, I think they're a safer bet than these crypto coins. And even if the potential for explosion isn't 100x, there is still a lot of potential for these crypto companies during a crypto run, because VCs are going to be throwing money at crypto companies like like they throw money at strippers when a big bull run comes. Because, like, when the hype hits the entire industry, as long as VCs hear it's somehow blockchain related or crypto related, they're more likely to just dish out the cash. And that cash will go to the company's operations and probably not to the coin's development. So as long as the company is aligned with your interests, i.e. the company actually, i.e. the company is actually tied to your financial interest, you are generally likely to do better. So once again, the best investment class could actually be crypto-based stocks and not the tokens themselves. Like, a couple of companies you want to look at, obviously Circle Internet, Coinbase, Kraken when it launches, Kalshi, Polymarket, Ripple, and any other big crypto or crypto related company that's heavily embedded into crypto that you can actually buy public market. Now, you could try to get into the private funding. There are platforms that let you do that. I'm not too familiar with them because they generally cost a lot of money. And sometimes you have to have accredited investor credentials. And I'm not like a mega millionaire, so I don't actually have those credentials. But if you can get into some of the private sales and you have the credentials, that actually might be extremely lucrative as well. So yeah, watch out for, like, chances to invest in actual crypto companies and tie yourself to their finances instead of just buying the coins that they might not be that heavily financially linked to. Once again, Coinbase, Kraken when it debuts, like Kalshi, Polymarket if they debut, Circle obviously, Tether if they debut, and only if their projected market cap falls below like 150 billion or 100 billion or so, because I think they're way overvalued at 500 billion. And of course, like, whatever else comes up. Wouldn't buy MSTR, like I said. But those couple of stocks I just mentioned, plus the couple of upcoming ones I mentioned, might actually be your best bet at the best crypto investment in the long term. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.